Appendix A of the Backwoods of Canada by Catherine Parr Traill. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Backwoods of Canada by Catherine Parr Traill. Appendix A. The following communications have been received from the writer of this work during its progress through the press. Maple sugar. This spring I have made maple sugar of a much finer colour and grain than any I have yet seen, and have been assured by many old settlers it was the best, or nearly the best, they had ever met with; which commendation induces me to give the plan I pursued in manufacturing it. The sap having been boiled down in the sugar bush from about 16 pailsful to 2, I first passed it through a thin flannel bag, after the manner of a jelly bag, to strain it from the first impurities, which are great. I then passed the liquor through another thicker flannel to the iron pot, in which I proposed boiling down the sugar, and while yet cold, or at best but lukewarm, beat up the white of 1 egg to a froth, and spread it gently over the surface of the liquor, watching the pot carefully after the fire began to heat it, that I might not suffer the scum to boil into the sugar. A few minutes before it comes to a boil, the scum must be carefully removed with a skimmer or ladle; the former is best. I consider that on the care taken to remove every particle of scum depends in a great measure the brightness and clearness of the sugar. The best rule I can give as to the sugaring off, as it is termed, is to let the liquid continue at a fast boil; only be careful to keep it from coming over by keeping a little of the liquid in your stirring ladle, and when it boils to the top, or you see it rising too fast, throw in a little from time to time to keep it down; or if you boil on a cooking stove, throwing open one or all the doors will prevent boiling over. Those that sugar off outside the house have a wooden crane fixed against a stump, the fire being lighted against the stump, and the kettle suspended on the crane. By this simple contrivance (for any bush boy can fix a crane of the kind) the sugar need never rise over if common attention be paid to the boiling. But it does require constant watching; one idle glance may waste much of the precious fluid. I had only a small cooking stove to boil my sugar on, the pots of which were thought too small, and not well shaped, so that at first my fears were that I must relinquish the trial; but I persevered, and experience convinces me a stove is an excellent furnace for the purpose, as you can regulate the heat as you like. One of the most anxious periods in the boiling I found to be when the liquor first begins to assume a yellowish frothy appearance, and cast up so great a volume of steam from its surface as to obscure the contents of the pot, as it may then rise over almost unperceived by the most vigilant eye. As the liquor thickens into molasses it becomes a fine yellow, and seems nothing but thick froth. When it is getting pretty well boiled down, the drops begin to fall clear and ropy from the ladle, and if you see little bright grainy looking bubbles in it, drop some on a cold plate, and continue to stir or rub it till it is quite cold. If it is ready to granulate, you will find it gritty, and turn whitish or pale straw colour, and stiff. The sugar may then safely be poured off into a tin dish, pail, basin, or any other utensil. I tried 2 different methods after taking the sugar from the fire, but could find little difference in the look of the sugar, except that in one the quantity was broken up more completely; in the other the sugar remained in large lumps, but equally pure and sparkling. In the first I kept stirring the sugar till it began to cool and form a whitish thick substance, and the grains were well crystallized. In the other process, which I think is preferable, as being the least troublesome, I waited till the mass was hardened into sugar, and then, piercing the crust in many places, I turned the mass into a cullender, and placed the cullender over a vessel to receive the molasses that drained from the sugar. In the course of the day or two I frequently stirred the sugar, which thus became perfectly free from moisture, and had acquired a fine sparkling grain, tasting exactly like sugar candy, free from any taste of the maple sap, and fit for any purpose. I observe that in general maple sugar, as it is commonly made, is hard and compact, showing little grain, and weighing very heavy in proportion to its bulk. Exactly the reverse is the case with that I made, it being extremely light for its bulk, all the heavy molasses having been separated, instead of dried into the sugar. Had the present season been at all a favourable one, which it was not, we should have made a good quantity of excellent sugar. Vinegar. By boiling down 5 gallons of sap to 1, and when just a little above the heat of new milk, putting in a cupful of barm (hop rising will do if it be good), and letting the vessel remain in your kitchen chimney corner during the summer, and perhaps longer, you will obtain a fine, cheap, pleasant, and strong vinegar, fit for any purpose. This plan I have pursued successfully 2 years. Care must be taken that the cask or keg be well seasoned and tight before the vinegar is put in, as the dryness of the summer heat is apt to shrink the vessel, and make it leak. If putty well wrought, tar, or even yellow soap, be rubbed over the seams, and round the inner rim of the head of the cask, it will preserve it from opening. The equal temperature of the kitchen is preferred by experienced housewives to letting the vinegar stand abroad. They aver the coldness of the nights in this country is prejudicial to the process, being as speedily perfected as if it underwent no such check. By those well skilled in the manufacture of home made wines and beer, excellent maple wine and beer might be produced at a very trifling expense, that is, that of the labour and skill exercised in the making of it. Every settler grows, as an ornament in his garden, or should grow, hops, which form one of the principal components of maple beer when added to the sap. Hop rising. This excellent, and I might add, indispensable article in every settler's house, is a valuable substitute for ale or beer yeast, and is made in the following simple manner. Take 2 double handfuls of hops, boil in a gallon of soft water, if you can get it, till the hops sink to the bottom of the vessel. Make ready a batter formed by stirring a dessert plateful of flour and cold water till smooth and pretty thick together. Strain the hop liquor while scalding hot into the vessel where your batter is mixed already. Let one person pour the hop liquor while the other keeps stirring the batter. When cooled down to a gentle warmth, so that you can bear the finger well in it, add a cup or basinful of the former barm, or a bit of leaven to set it to work. Let the barm stand till it has worked well, then bottle and cork it. Set it by in a cellar or cold place if in summer, and in winter it is also the best place to keep it from freezing. Some persons add 2 or 3 mealy potatoes, boiled and finely bruised, and it is a great improvement during the cool months of the year. Potatoes and bread may be introduced very advantageously, and to first settlers who have all their flour to buy, I think it must be a saving. The following method I found made more palatable and lighter bread than flour, mixed in the usual way. Supposing I want to make up about 1.5 stones of flour, I boiled, having first pared them carefully, say 3 dozen good sized potatoes in about 3 quarts or a gallon of water, till the liquor had the appearance of a thin gruel, and the potatoes had become almost entirely incorporated with the water. With this potato gruel the flour was mixed up, no water being required, unless by chance I had not enough of the mixture to moisten my flour sufficiently. The same process of kneading, fermenting with barm, &c., is pursued with the dough, as with other bread. In baking it turns of a bright light brown, and is lighter than bread made after the common process, and therefore I consider the knowledge of it serviceable to the emigrant's family. Salt rising. This is a barm much used by the Yankee settlers; but though the bread is decidedly whiter and prettier to look at than that raised in any other way, the peculiar flavour it imparts to the bread renders it highly disagreeable to some persons. Another disadvantage is, the difficulty of fermenting this barm in the winter season, as it requires a temperature which is very difficult to preserve in a Canadian winter day. Moreover, after the barm has once reached its height,